What's up YouTube, this is Kent from Pitch to Force Gaming, and this is my deck tech for my Zacama Primal Calamity Storm EDH deck. So the general of the deck is Zacama Primal Calamity. It is a 9/9 for 6 red, green, and white. Has Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Whenever it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, untap all lands you control, and then you can pay 2 and a red to have it deal 3 damage to target creature, 2 and a green, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and 2 and a white, you gain 3 life. So the goal of the deck is to make huge amounts of mana and play Zacama multiple times in a turn with all of your lands tapping for 2-3 mana at a time to generate enough to win the game. There are a couple infinite combos. This deck is what I would consider pretty competitive for an F&M. I wouldn't necessarily play it in side events at a GP or anything. Maybe I would. I don't know. I like to have fun. So, for starters, obviously, we're trying to get a lot of lands into play. So I have quite a few ramp cards in the deck. I run Exploration, Farseek, Nature's Lore, Wood Elves, Kodama's Reach, Cultivate, Ranger's Path, Tempt with Discovery, Skyshroud Claim, Oracle of Moldiah, Solemn Simulacrum, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, and Chromatic Lantern. Now the artifacts here don't have a ton of synergy with the general, but honestly these are the 3 best artifact ramp cards in the format. And then Chromatic Lantern, you are tapping and untapping lands like crazy, and it definitely helps to not have to keep track of what colors certain lands can tap for. So Chromatic Lantern helps that out quite a bit. As for the rest of the cards, Exploration and Oracle of Moldiah just give you extra land drops, help you get the lands out of your hand that might be stuck there. And then the reason that I'm running these specific searchers, Farseek, Nature's Lore, Skyshroud Claim, and Ranger's Path, can all get dual lands actually. So as long as it's a forest for these 3 and then a mountain or a plains for Farseek, you can grab your dual lands. Wood Elves, this deck has some synergies with enter the battlefield effects, so Wood Elves is great because it can often get you multiple lands. Kodama's Reach and Cultivate both get multiple lands out of your deck. Solemn Simulacrum, again like Wood Elves, we have some synergies there. And then Tempt with Discovery, a lot of people don't like to run that card because it gives your opponent lands too. But I mean, honestly, in a deck based on getting as many lands into play as possible, I'm not that afraid of my opponents getting lands. Sometimes this is going to be 4 mana to get 1 land out of your deck, but the cool thing is you can get any land that you want. So that is my land ramp that I run. And then we want our lands to tap for multiple mana at a time. So I have quite a few mana doublers. So we have Mana Flare and Heartbeat of Spring, which are basically the same card. They make all players' lands tap for an additional mana. Keeper of Progenitus makes mountains, forests, and plains tap for an additional mana. Dictate of Karametra, you can flash this in on their end step, untap and win the game. Mirari's Wake is great because it only affects your lands, it doesn't give the opponents extra mana. This is Mana Reflection, just like Mirari's Wake. It actually says that anytime a permanent would add mana, so that helps with the mana rocks as well. And then Vorinclex and Zendikar Resurgent. Zendikar Resurgent doubles not only as a mana doubler, but if you're playing your Zacama, every time you do that you get to draw a card or any other creature that you might be bouncing and replaying. So those are the mana doublers that we run. Now that we've talked about the ramp, I will go ahead and go through the lands next before we get into the rest of the deck. So I'm running 5 fetch lands. Arid Mesa, Wooded Foothills, and Windswept Heath are the on-color fetch lands for the deck. You can get any of your lands, any of your basics. And then I'm also running Verdant Catacombs and Misty Rainforest because green is the most important color of the deck. I'm not running every fetch land that I could just because, well, you'll see in a little bit, there's a lot of important lands in the deck, and I didn't really want to cut any others. So we have our 3 duels, Savannah, Plateau, and Taiga. 3 shock lands, Temple Garden, Sacred Foundry, and Stomping Ground. I have Canopy Vista, Cinderglade, and Sheltered Thicket because they all have basic land types, so you can search them with Skyshroud Claim or Ranger's Path. And then because we're untapping our lands, and like I've said several times, we want our lands to tap for multiple mana. These lands just naturally tap for multiple mana. I have Sarah's Sanctum because, as you saw, I do run quite a few enchantments, and we haven't even gotten to all of them yet. Gruul Turf, Boros Garrison, and Selesnya Sanctuary, the bounce lands from Ravnica. Temple of the False God, which is not hard to turn on in this deck, and Ancient Tomb. You want to try not to kill yourself with that, but early game it's great. And then I run a Reflecting Pool and a Command Tower because they each tap for all 3 of my colors and come into play untapped. Just a couple of utility lands. I have Gaia Reach Sanitarium. If I'm untapping my lands several times, this actually just kind of lets me dig through my deck really quickly to find a way to actually win the game. And then Winding Canyons gives my creatures flash, so I can flash things in on my opponent's end step if I need to. It doesn't come up too often, but it's nice utility land to have in the deck. And then I am running a higher count of basics than I usually do, just because some effects search out only basics like Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, so you always want to have targets whenever you cast those. So I have 3 plains, I have 5 forests, and 3 mountains. Alright, and like I said, this is a more competitive version of the deck, so I run quite a few tutors. I'll get into the combos whenever in another section, but this is how we're going to search out the combos so we can win as soon as we get enough mana to cast our general, basically. So we have Eldamri's Call, searches a creature. Green Sun Zenith, searches a creature. Summoner's Pact, searches a creature. Court of Calling, searches a creature. Survival of the Fittest, searches several creatures. Eldritch Evolution, searches a creature. And Worldly Tutor, searches a creature. If you can't tell, there is a specific creature I'm really wanting to get to every game. Then I have Idyllic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, and Sterling Grove. Idyllic and Sterling Grove only search for enchantments, and Enlightened Tutor actually gets you an enchantment or an artifact. Sterling Grove also has the benefit of when it's in play, your other enchantments have Shroud, so you can play it early just to protect your other pieces and then pop it whenever you need to tutor. To stop our opponent from winning the game before we can, I do have some kind of control cards in the deck just to kind of slow other players down, help preserve yourself until you can get to 10 mana. Well, 9 mana, but you'll need 10. I'll explain that why. I'll explain that in a little bit. We have Linvala, Keeper of Silence. Activated abilities of your creatures your opponents control can't be activated. I have Caustic Caterpillar, Aura Shards, Ghazali Pride Mage, and Reclamation Sage, all of which shut down artifacts or enchantments. Stony Silence shuts down all players' artifacts. I'm only running a couple of artifacts, so this really doesn't hurt me. And at a pot of 4, you're bound to be playing against someone that's got an artifact deck, so that's always a good card, and you're going to get a lot of angry players. Peacekeeper. This card says creatures can't attack. It is awesome because I'm not planning on attacking to win the game. I'm making a ton of mana and using it to cast giant spells to win the game. So This just slows the whole game down until somebody can remove it. I have my 2 removal pieces, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshare, 1 mana, exile a creature. You don't want to put creatures in the graveyard because a lot of decks can't abuse that. Just best removal in the format. And then City of Solitude says each player may play spells and abilities only during his or her turn. Spells and abilities, that's going to shut down a ton of decks. If you land that card and somebody doesn't remove it right then, you can usually win the game that turn. And I've got a section of card advantage. These are just things that help you to draw cards, maybe get more for your money. Wall of Blossom just draws a card when it comes into play. Zavala, Heart of the Wilds. When another creature enters the battlefield, you can draw a card if, well, its controller can draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. My general is a 9/9, which is usually going to be one of the biggest things on the field. So if I'm casting this over and over again, I can draw a card each time I do. And this also ramps you a little bit because you can pay green and tap her to add X mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So she actually can tap with Zacama out to add 9 mana, or just depending on any other creatures you have out. But usually you're just using her for the draw card. I have Sylvan Library. You know, you're in a format with 40 life. It's fine to pay 8 life to draw 2 cards. Evolutionary Leap. Sacrifice a creature, then reveal cards from the top until you find another creature and put that into your hand. This card is awesome because it can actually reset Zacama. So if you have tons of lands out, you can make well more than 9 mana. You can play Zacama and then Evolutionary Leap it back to the command zone and play it again, just to add more creatures to your hand. Or if you happen to have infinite mana, you can do that to get every creature out of your deck. Eternal Witness. If you're playing green, you're playing Eternal Witness. Just regrowths a card from your graveyard, and it's on a body. And when you're picking creatures back up and replaying them, I mean, you get a ton of value out of that. Sunbird's Invocation. I love this card. If this card sticks around and I get to cast another spell, probably not losing the game. Great card out of Ixalan. I'm really glad to see it, and I will put it in any deck where I can cast it. Lifecrafter's Bestiary. It is just a permanent that lets you pay green when you cast a creature to draw a card. It's awesome. Panharmonicon. Almost every creature that I have in the deck has a triggered ability. So when it enters the battlefield, Panharmonicon's awesome because I get to double those. So if I get Eternal Witness, I'm getting 2 cards back from my graveyard. Wall of Blossoms, I'm drawing 2 cards. Selvala, I'm drawing 2 cards if something bigger enters the battlefield. The next 3 cards all kind of do the same thing. I have Soul's Majesty, Rishkar's Expertise, and Momentous Fall. Soul's Majesty, draw cards equal to the power of target creature you control. Rishkar's Expertise, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, and you get to cast another card from your hand after that. It costs 5 or less. And then Momentous Fall is an instant. You sacrifice a creature and you draw cards equal to that creature's power and gain life equal to its toughness. Zacama is a 9/9. All 3 of these cards say draw 9 cards on them. That's awesome. My favorite thing about Magic is drawing cards. Momentous Fall actually will let you put Zacama back in your command zone so you can recast it on top of the 9 cards you just got. And now the reason I said in the beginning that this is Zacama Storm, I also play Past in Flames. You're not going to see many Naya decks with Past in Flames. That's for sure, and that takes a lot of people by surprise. But, I mean, you have plenty of ramp cards. You have these awesome draw 9. So this card just gets you a ton of value. In the late game, you're going to have a ton of mana. Dump into that, recast everything from your graveyard, and you're probably not going to lose after that. And then finally, the combos or engines of the deck. So the main ways that we are bouncing and replaying Zacama are Cloudstone Curio and Temur Sabertooth. So if all of your lands tap for, say, 12 mana, and you cast Zacama for 9 of it. You have 3 mana left. You activate Temur Sabertooth for 2. You have 1 mana left, and you pick up Zacama. Now you're back where you started, but you have 1 extra mana. Zacama again, you generate infinite mana. Because Zacama has these activated abilities, you get to blow up all your opponent's creatures, blow up all their artifacts and enchantments, and gain as much life as you want. Unfortunately, that doesn't technically win the game. It just gains you infinite life and destroys a lot of their permanents. So usually whenever you gain infinite life, people are going to consider you have won. However, with EDH, that's not always the case. So we have to have ways to actually win the game. One other way to make infinite mana, Food Chain. Works very well with Zacama to reset it back to the command zone so you can recast it. But the mana that you get from Food Chain you can only spend on creatures. Eternal Scourge combos with Food Chain make infinite mana for creatures. At that point you can cast Zacama infinite times, blow itself up with its deal 3 damage to target creature, and recast it over and over. So as long as you're making 10 mana off your lands, you get infinite mana for things other than creatures at that point. But Eternal Scourge and Food Chain is just a classic combo. We're not in blue, so we can't play Mist Griffin. There's a new Squee coming out that combos with Food Chain as well, so that'll probably go in the deck as soon as I get one. And then Walking Ballista is just a way to dump that infinite mana. Comes in with X1/1 counters. You can remove those counters to deal damage. You can pay 4 to put up a counter on it and then remove it to deal the damage. So that is one way you can win the game. Genesis Wave says if you have infinite mana, you win the game. That's pretty okay for me, because it's not hard for this deck to make infinite mana. Reveal the top X cards of your library. Put any number of permanent cards with converted mana cost X or less onto the battlefield. That's a classic card. And then my combo of choice, it's definitely not the most reliable, but it's going to catch a lot of people off guard because most people haven't seen this combo before. Well, first of all, Pandemonium and Warstorm Surge, when you're recasting Zacama over and over, that's going to win you the game on its own, dealing 9 every time he enters. But if you don't happen to get to the point of casting Zacama, I also run a Seki Seasons Guide. The way this combo works, well, Seki says it comes into play with 8 +1/+1 counters on it. If damage would be dealt to Seki, prevent that damage, remove that many +1/+1 counters from it, and put that many 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens into play. Then you can sacrifice 8 spirits to return Seki from your graveyard to play. So if I have out Pandemonium, I play Seki, he enters the battlefield, I get to assign 8 damage. I target himself. He gets hit for 8, he then makes 8 spirits, each one of them deals 1 to my opponent, and then I sacrifice those 8 spirits, bring back Seki, and repeat. So that is a fun way to win the game. One of the first combos I ever read about when I started playing Magic, and I haven't really seen anyone play it before, so when I realized that I was in the correct colors finally to play that, I was really excited. So anyway, that has been my Zacama Primal Calamity Storm EDH deck. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how I did. If you have any questions or suggestions for the deck, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I will try my best to respond to you. If you want to try out the deck, I definitely recommend it. It's fun. It's not that complicated to play. And there's plenty of budget versions that, like, a lot of the cards other than some of the lands are not that expensive, and there's definitely things that you could substitute for cards that you don't have access to. So anyway, thank you very much. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great night.